Welcome back to the Eclectic Podcast. Today's a momentous occasion as we have our first guest here with us today. We have Mr. Tyler Manley and Mr. Zach Cullop. Good old friends of ours have decided to join us. Mr. John Crass is here as well, as usual.
Hey.
What's up, everybody?
And,
How's it going?
We're just going to kind of kick it and just kind of have a good conversation here. We touch on a few different topics. John, is there anything you'd like to welcome them with, or any thoughts you have to ease them into this experience?
Well, thanks for joining us, fellas.
No problem, dude. I told you guys I wanted to be a guest.
It's a beautiful
Finally
day.
happening.
Yeah.
It's much appreciated, man.
Oh, absolutely.
You guys
Yeah,
are
it's a
perfect
pleasure.
first guests. I think both of you guys really kind of have outlooks that resonate with what we're trying to do here.
Good. So we're gonna get intellectual and smart.
That's the plan. That's always the plan.
Good.
So,
You guys have anything? I mean, you guys are the guests, so
yeah, let's give the floor to you guys. Is there
anything you'd like to possibly discuss?
Okay. So since we were prior to the show coming on, we were talking about Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Ever since then, I've always been wondering how the world would really react if one day there was a fucking godlike being that was just yeah, I've been living among you guys. I'm a fucking alien. Look at what I can do. Shoot me in the face with a gun and I'll be fine. You know,
like some super evolved
being
being.
Honestly, a being that's makes us look like fucking primates, basically, you know.
Yeah, you know they're out there, but
yeah.
Isn't that interesting to think if they were among us?
Well, not among us, but came out how the world would react.
Yeah.
Think about how much they hate gay people. They would really fucking hate an alien.
Dude, that's a really interesting point. I think more interesting than the alien would be the human reaction to that.
Yeah.
I don't think humanity's probably ready for that because
No.
we're so
Humanity's still way too caught up on religion, and religion was a
Yep.
fucking principle 2,000 years ago when we thought
And
the world was
religion would
flat.
certainly get brought into something like that.
It would.
You know,
And it's
everyone would be
their belief structure's crumbling.
Mhm.
They wouldn't handle it well.
very confused.
yeah, before we get any further, I'm just going to let this podcast know that I'm an atheist. So, we start talking about religion, I'm going to be very blunt.
That's good, man.
It's fine.
We welcome that
Okay.
sharp criticism. That's what this dialogue's all about.
I've always been someone that enjoys science and doing science experiments, and
Absolutely.
that's where my faith is. It's science has been proven right. It's like law, and everything that it's proved disproves what's written in the Bible.
Yeah,
You know what I
to
mean?
a certain extent. I'd like to characterize myself as a scientific spiritualist hybrid type of thing.
Oh, I'm spiritualist. Trust me.
Yeah.
I more believe in a spirit of the earth than I believe in
Yeah.
a random. What's the odds of there being one being that's sentient? He would be a part of a race of people. He has to have a mother, if he's a living, breathing being. So it's I understand there could be a higher evolved race of humans that have ascended into state of energy.
And maybe
that's a
our
god.
destiny.
My problem is with organized monotheistic religion that basically builds upon the structure of royalty,
Yeah.
and it's not used to enlighten people. It's not used to better society. It's used to suppress knowledge and
Yeah, to,
dominate people.
disseminate
Control.
Yeah.
knowledge.
I mean,
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's about control.
Christianity and Muslims fight over the same God. It's like the French and the English, when Joan of Arc was around. They
Yeah.
both claimed that God blessed them to be the holy country that would win the war.
Yeah, and that was their battle. Same
And
religion.
it's same religion,
perfect estate.
the same God blessed both of them. Why would God do that unless God was
Yeah.
a 12-year-old kid that was playing
Yeah,
toys?
like a guy, like a fucking god with a magnifying glass burning
An
an ant.
ant, yeah.
Yeah, it's that's a really interesting topic, fucking we can't overlook the human side that they've corrupted it for their own benefit.
Oh, benefit, yes, absolutely. And if you look at evolution, everyone evolved to basically survive, and we evolved to have art, buildings, we evolved to rape and pillage our environment. Like, that feels like someone tinkered with our evolution at some point, and we made a drastic jump.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's something out there. There's a God. There's other sentient beings. Like,
Oh,
who
totally.
made the universe? But organized religion is just...
Yeah, I think it's interesting that what you just touched on is that change from, like, supposedly our current brains have been around for, I've heard it range from 200,000 to 1,000,000 years ago. But something happened in recorded history about 10,000 years ago where we just sprung into all this creating language and civilization and art and all this shit. Like,
it was a lot longer than 10,000 years ago. I mean, they have sites, archaeological sites in Turkey
well,
that
exactly.
they've uncovered that are like 15,000 years old.
Like Göbekli Tepe and shit.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it's like 30,000
Well,
or something like that.
modern archaeology
Yeah.
says 15,000. Crazy ancient alien theorists, they say 30,000.
Well, see, that's the interesting point because we start getting into this shit where it's like recorded history might not be. I think that, again, it's people that are in positions of power in
People could have
archaeology.
built tools and moved
we've
rock
only got,
before
we've
they
got
developed.
such little.
Do you
we've
know how,
got the
like,
pieces and the fragments of
finesse
this trail
language
just
is
keep
like
going deeper and deeper.
spoken language, let alone a written language. Like, so written language is probably 5,000 years after the human brain developed the capability of using it. Like, it
Yeah.
had to be invented. It had to spread to a massive group of people. Like, ancient Egypt had 3 million people in the city. Like,
Yeah.
when you think of New York is no bigger than ancient cities were. So now you have 1 million people that speak a language. Like, that takes a long time to happen.
Yeah.
Like, that, there are already generations of people speaking that
Yeah.
language before the city comes. So then writing would be the next evolution in that. So now you have another 5,000 years before writing. And now you hit that 10,000 mark. And it's like, that's when we became smart.
Yeah.
No, we've been smart for 10,000 fucking years.
So it begs the question of lost civilization.
Well, absolutely. Like,
I think we start getting into like Graham Hancock's work.
Exactly.
or Atlantis.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
Fingerprints of the Gods.
because Atlantis is like, in every ancient civilization has a version of this great civilization sinking into the
Yeah.
ocean.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, think about the Mariana Trench, dude. We can't go to the bottom of that. Like, what if right below this big island city that thrived and fucking had planes and had our modern technology and spread knowledge around the world was right under a fault line, and that fucking fault line split into the Mariana Trench and they fucking fell in?
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't even have evidence of it because the fucking ocean would just, water carves the Grand Canyon. It's going to eat away stone buildings and island material.
It's just like Hancock said. There's similar myths and legends amongst all like the
yeah.
ancient
They all have a great
civilizations.
floods.
They all got the Great Flood. So it was a global thing and tons of knowledge and history.
Yeah, literally every
Was
culture
just
has that myth.
Wiped away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the climate was much different then,
Yeah, dude.
for sure.
And like the Sphinx has all that water erosion that suggests that it's much older than archaeologists
Wasn't
give
it
credit
Charlton Heston that does the 70s documentary,
Oh,
Mystery of the
the
Sphinx,
narrator-
that like talks about that?
Yeah,
Like, they've known that for a long time.
the real I think Graham Hancock and what's his name? Fucking Rogan did an interview with this guy. He's real old now. I think like something Anthony West. Does that sound familiar? Michael Anthony West, maybe. He's like a leading proponent of that, and I think it was just like in the 70s, yeah, when he started really breaking down that barrier. He's like, whoa. There's like water erosion here that suggests the Sphinx predates, 10,000. It predates the climate shift,
Yeah.
And
it's staring him right in the face.
Yeah.
And it's like a
Well, if you
just
even
as
look,
developed as a
like, if you go to
institution
like,
of thought as anything is like geology and water erosion, whatever. And it's like some guy comes up and is like, here, this is what I see, and it's legitimate. And it's like all the signs, and they're like, no,
No.
yeah.
sorry, man.
We can't allow that. That would
What?
discredit all
But
of our
look
work.
Look at this though. Really, like, look at it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just not taking it.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
I think that's people. That's like the mainstream
Chew? Whoever has the chew?
archaeologists. Like they don't want their work discredited. It's almost like the same thing how politicians
Yeah.
hold on to their power. It's like they discredit any other ideas because they want to keep their seat of influence,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll discredit the Graham Hancocks that come along and with these groundbreaking revelations.
Well, yeah, and I think like kind of why is like we talked about it in the last podcast with like philosophy conflicting with established schools of thoughts or religion or whatever.
Yeah. People
When
fear what
you-
they don't know.
When you come
Yeah.
at somebody with some groundbreaking new idea, like the Earth doesn't, or the sun doesn't revolve around the Earth or whatever, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it makes them confront some things in their lives that they feel threatened by this new knowledge for whatever reason. People want to resist change or whatever, and they project the threat onto the Graham Hancocks, the people. They persecute them, make them look like fools, discredit them, make up lies.
Yeah.
Oh man.
This day and age, like you see it with the whole NSA.
Dude, no. Man, I don't even want to get started on that.
Maybe we should. Edward Snowden, hero or traitor? I say hero.
Hero.
Yeah, hero.
Just like Julian Assange.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, like they said it at the beginning, CNN reported on it. They're like, he might be called a traitor now, but history's probably going to look on him differently. Like, absolutely, my phone conversation should not be recorded. Like, did you hear now that the FBI has used drones for surveillance on U.S. citizens? Means we're spying on what you do in your home, so we're conflicting against the fucking Fourth Amendment. Like,
Yeah.
we have a right to privacy. Like,
Me and John saw a drone fly overhead 2
Mhm.
weeks ago
Yeah.
when we were here.
oh yeah, I mean, you know
I
that
read
they're
a
just,
report about it like
dude,
weeks
they're-
ago. They said
they're
there was,
nearly
like,
stealthy. Like,
They said the report
they're
said there
hard
was
to
2
fucking
for every
spot out,
state,
especially on a
pretty
cloudy
much.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they fly so high in the air, it's like they could literally just be flying drones in like a snake pattern across the continent of the United
Oh,
States.
Police departments are using
What?
them.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
fucked up is that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't honestly like. I understand like law enforcement having like a SWAT team to me is almost too Orwellian.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what Congress is fucking doing and super PACs.
Yeah. Yeah, the
I
way-
really fear that we're like the generation that's either going to collapse, you know, the great empire of America, or be the ones that suffer from like its totalitarian, you know, like look at Greece. Greece was this great state until Persians invaded. Then they became one consolidated government,
yeah.
and they got corrupted and died.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Rome was this amazing, conquering, innovative country, and they
Mhm.
were fine until Caesar decided to take over in power, and then it fucking, you know, turned into dictator after dictator and
Yeah.
slowly crumbled.
Yeah.
So it's like America is at that tipping point where it's like,
Yeah.
you know, hell the fucking dictator. We either have to
Yeah.
revolt or fucking submit.
Yeah, but we can also be that generation that breaks free from all this shit and sets America up to be what Rome and Greece never could be.
Yeah.
You know, there's that. That's like the optimistic side that
Yeah.
that you could take, but it doesn't look good right now.
Yeah.
No.
It really doesn't. And
Well, we had it. We had our industrial revolution. We innovated. We were this great country.
I
Tipping
thought you
point.
brought up a good point about all the previous civilizations. Like, you see it all throughout history. They rise up to this like pinnacle, and then like corruption or whatever, something happens, some conflict. They get too spread out fighting wars or stuff like that, and it crumbles. And we are at that tipping point. You know, we are there, and it probably is going to collapse very soon. And there will be suffering and all that shit. But with that, there will be questions that are raised and the capacity for change. The responsibility now is for people who are in power after, you know, the collapse happens and shit. We cut the shit. And, you know, no corruption, an actual representative government is what's needed for...
Oh,
Mhm.
I personally think
Exactly.
America's too large of a country to be like, it doesn't work unless you're like, Soviet Russia worked because they oppressed their people, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
China works because they oppressed their people. What other country really is the size of America? Well, besides Canada, but you know, they are so low in population.
Yeah.
America, what we feel is norm in the Northwest and our outlook on life is completely different than someone in Georgia. Like, more than likely, if America fails, you're going to see a European-like-esque region of the world where the states are going to branch off into what they are now and be their own
Well,
government.
Maybe that begs to ask. Maybe it should be that way.
Well,
Mhm.
we started as a republic. We started as the state first,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe break America into, 5 or 6 different regional states.
Yeah. and I want to let it known, this is not an anti-Obama talk right now. I voted for him both times. I still think out of everyone that's ran in the last 8 years, he is the right choice. So.
Well, I think that there was that like hope and change feeling, and I think that that's what captured the imagination.
Yeah,
of
we
the
thought
country.
he was going to be way different, but he's a politician.
I think it just goes to show that the hierarchy that's in place, that he's compromised now with this shit. Like, it's the old JFK, the old Bill Hicks bit. Like,
Oh yeah.
you get elected, you go into a smoky room with these capitalist, industrialist leaders, and they say,
This is what's
you're gonna
up.
listen to us, or you're gonna be fucking JFK. You're gonna be a grease spot,
Oh, there's totally an Illuminati or Freemason-esque secret society in this world. Like,
Oh, definitely. And it's not that hard to figure out who they are. I think it's the heads of these international banks that are dynasties that have gone back hundreds of years.
the Rockefellers,
The
dude.
Rockefellers, the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
They pretty much have free reign to print more money that has no backing.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. I mean, look at what Bush did.
That's what the Federal
Bush was
Reserve
like,
does.
oh, the economy's bad. I'm just going to double the amount of paper dollars that's out there. And it's like, well, you just
and
depreciated
the
the
debt
value
goes
of the world.
on you, people.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
Just because
let's
by
be
default.
honest. Okay,
you're a citizen.
you say the debt
What can
goes
you
on us.
expect? We need money. You're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, they're privatizing profits, but making public all the debts.
Yeah. I saw this fascinating thing. I think it was on Bill Maher, and it was like, we always say we're the richest country in the world, and we are. We have the most millionaires and the most billionaires. But if you look at our middle class, it's like 27th overall. And the debt is on us in the sense that, like, oh, we're taking out home mortgages, we're losing our money that we work for to keep the country's image up, basically, right? But the real people that are losing our debt are the people in the Middle East, the people in Africa, like these places where we literally go in and pretend to have conflicts and wars to oppress them for the resources. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, we are Caesar's Rome.
Yeah, we're an empire, and anyone that thinks we're not is fucking very misinformed.
Dude, I heard a statistic like a while back that American military spending, the budget every year, is like more than the next like 20 fucking countries.
Oh yeah, absolutely true.
It's insane.
I heard that too.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And then also, when you look at our
There's no way people. keep
our
up with that
education
pace.
system, like
That's
our
what it's
math
all
and
about.
sciences are in the
Our
30s.
defense budget is just
Yeah, well-
astronomical.
Global dominance.
Well, how
We
about
need the best.
in 40 billion?
America's Navy, a global force. For
Did you
good.
see those commercials? Make me sick, man. And not to go all patriotic here, but like the
It's horrible.
the adoration
And the Navy's killing fucking whales and
Yeah.
dolphins and mermaids.
yeah, dude. Dude, but those commercials, don't they make you sick? Like,
Oh,
like
yeah.
in the like military recruiters that like just jump on these like empty-headed kids and like get them to go do their fucking bidding. Like recruiting pawns to go play out this fucking huge chess game of,
Yeah,
of
dude.
corporate fucking resource gathering, basically.
I was
Mm-hmm.
like brainwashed as a kid. Like, my dad, when I grew up, my dad was a bosun's mate. He's like the third highest ranked enlisted guy when he retired or something ridiculous like that. I don't know. But he was a chief and he was pretty high up in the enlisted side. And I was like, boom, you're Navy. You're going to be an officer in the Navy. You're going to this. You're going to be all this. Like, I'm going
Yeah.
to teach you how to tie knots. I'm going to teach you the bosun's mate code,
Yeah.
all this shit. And when I moved up here, I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'm just going to get through school and then I'm going to join the Navy, be back to San Diego, fuck Washington. And then all of a sudden, over the years, I got on your guys' like wavelength and way of
Yeah.
thinking, and I realized it's like, dude, what the military does and what the Navy does in particular is fucking ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
one U.S. nuclear sub is like the third most powerful nuclear nation in the world.
Yeah.
Think about that.
One like piece of our equipment.
Wait, think about that.
basically.
Like Russia, we have America, most powerful nuclear country in the world. Then you have Russia, and we basically we're like, Russia, if you get rid of your nukes, we'll get rid of them too. But we didn't, and they did, so we became more powerful than them. Now Cold War's over. They can't say anything. We have more nukes. That's what
Yeah.
it is. And then you have a U.S. nuclear sub, which can take out half the world by itself. And we have 8 of those floating around secretly, like...
Yeah, not to mention like the Strategic Air Command and all their.
Oh, yeah.
It's endless. Like,
On and on.
Yeah, like the world government already isn't a reality. It's the United States fucking
Well,
government.
Oh yeah,
Corporations
we
are-
created the UN, which was basically where all the other governments came to meet to plead their cases to us. You know?
Yeah, it's like a sideshow that we like put up with for.
Yeah. Well, the
Appearance
UN has either
reasons.
agreed with every U.S. conflict, and then the one time it didn't, the Iraq War, Bush just fucking did it anyways, and no one said anything. Like that should answer your question about how much power the UN has.
Yeah, they're fucking nothing.
Yeah.
That's why we created it.
Mm-hmm.
The UN is more a reason to control Africa. Like that's mainly what they do.
Yeah.
They sit in Africa and they pretend like they do shit, but they don't. And then they collect the fucking oil, the diamonds, the rubber from the Congo.
Oh yeah, fucking. And you know, they'll once in a while they'll appoint like an African leader to a high position in the UN to give that like facade that they're having their say and shit.
Oh yeah, and then 20 years later he'll try to commit genocide on someone.
Mm-hmm. Dude, could I snag one of these?
Mhm.
I'll hit you. I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
You want one, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get a lighter. Just pop that.
Yeah.
There's the Copenhagen can.
I'm gonna pop mine too.
Yeah.
It's all fucked up.
But yeah, like it's funny, like when you're talking about how we like make these like false treaties for like Russia and shit to like eliminate their nukes and everything.
Yeah.
Like it go like I think that it even goes back like that ties into the whole Kennedy thing. Like he was like actually had like a ban in place that he signed like months prior to his assassination that he truly was gonna like honor that and like stop the United States have this like massive like control over all the nukes and shit. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. Sit down, Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, the Cold War is like the most ridiculous bullshit ever. Like, have you guys heard of tritium?
Mm-mm.
Tritium is another element. I think it's tritium. Sorry on this podcast if I'm getting this wrong, but I know that there is an element that is more energy efficient than uranium in a nuclear reactor. It produces more energy at a more efficient rate, and it's less volatile. But due to the fact that it was less volatile, its production and study was stopped during the Cold War for plants to run uranium so that they can make more volatile, you know, whatever, enriched uranium.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's called, but yeah, so they can make nuclear bombs because they need them. Tritium doesn't work in nuclear bombs, if that's what it's called, you know, but it doesn't, but it's more efficient. And we basically banned it in America. You can't use it, you can't make a nuclear reactor. 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, both happened because they had, you know, volatile uranium in them and they fucking overheated, their cores broke, and hell broke loose.
So basically, the implication is that we're not trying to have some sustainable nuclear energy. It really is about the weapons
Well, yeah.
that we want.
Well, it's not sustainable because we cook uranium until it's plutonium, you
Mhm.
know, and we stuff it in a fucking bomb.
Mm.
We should not have. We should be paying 5 cents a year for our energy in America with the technology we have.
Yeah, it should be basically free, right? In
Yeah.
this day and age,
Yeah.
everyone should have free energy because it's so abundant. Like it's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, and you look at Nikola Tesla's work too.
God, yeah.
That
Mhm.
guy had a plan for free electricity for everybody, but
Just
you know,
pump it
would
into
just
the
take too
airwaves.
much
Wireless-
money out
wireless
of those elitist
electricity.
secret societies or whatever. They
Yeah.
take too much money out of their pockets, so you know you can't allow that. It's hushed up and bought up by the bigger corporations, so
Mhm.
they can perpetuate the profit
Capitalism.
making.
Yeah.
Capitalism just had to take over and start
I hate that
Yeah.
saying. Oh, we were,
eating us all.
we're a
Eating us
capitalist
all
society.
alive.
you know.
Yeah.
America was founded on capitalism. No, it wasn't. It was founded on a republic, you son of a bitch. Capitalism destroyed it.
Well, it's like McKenna says, like capitalism worked for a while and it was good, I think, to an extent, but now it's just killing us all, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't he say like Western civilization is a loaded gun pointed at the head of this planet?
Exactly.
Well,
Chewing up the ground we're standing on.
going back to
Yeah,
looking at
literally, you know,
going back to looking
destroying
at history.
the Amazon
I
rainforest,
was just gonna
and
bring that
polluting
up.
the air, polluting the water.
Like looking at the bombs and shit, that's one thing. Like, why do that? Why promote that over this alternative that Zach was talking about? And also the other side of it, looking at like the cost of the modern like boom in production and capitalism. The
Oil.
Amazon rainforest. That was a good point, man. Like it ties in perfectly. Yeah, oil. Why? We have alternatives to that too.
All the money they spend on oil, just in America too, and how much they're polluting the water and all the aquifers. It's like oil drilling. Like when they first came to like rise in America and hit their boom, like in this early or mid '60s and '70s, they bypassed like the Clean Air and the Clean Drinking Water Act of like 1970 or 1971.
Yeah.
They just completely subverted them somehow.
Yeah.
So we don't have to follow these.
Yeah.
They just had too much vested interest.
Yeah,
And of
exactly. That's
course,
all it takes.
Too much money involved. We're going to make too much money, and that was the biggest mistake. But now it's a mistake because they just keep going for it. And if they put the same amount of money they put into that endeavor into solar energy or anything for that matter,
Yeah.
Feeding the hungry.
obviously there would be a huge transitional point, and the economy would eat shit and everything would change. But
Yeah,
we know we can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd probably be better. I think.
Well,
Oh yeah. it would.
Definitely. And the outcome
most
is
people
obvious.
Just would resist that because it's changed.
There just wouldn't be this small portion of people that have this massive wealth and control. They'd lose
Well,
that.
we're gonna
and
give
that's
that
why-
all away.
Yeah, that's
Well,
why it's
that's
not
what
going
it
to
would
happen.
also, though,
It's
wealth
all
is
from
this
a green,
invention of man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if everyone was just, if there was an organization or a world government that supplied food, medical care, entertainment, everything for its people, we would turn into an ant-like fucking colony, and we would rule the universe. We would venture out into space at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
we have the
that's
ability.
the problem. Well, yeah, we have the ability. We don't have the ability to get along and have a
Mhm.
greater goal for man.
Exactly.
Like, man is the doom of man. Like,
Exactly.
we
We're
hate
shitting
each
in our
other.
beds.
And all that shit that comes along with it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that all this stuff, like all these human endeavors, like war and corporation-driven shit with like oil and consuming resources on the earth. It's all in the name of perpetuating the established norm, and it's all like so egocentrical, looking at ourselves with the war and like just destroying everything around us, when really we should be kind of looking outward into space, solar
Get more
energy.
ground. We need to keep getting more ground.
Yeah.
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 My
My
country's
bubble,
dick's
your
bigger
bubble.
than your country's
Yeah.
dick.
This is mine. Just want to keep drawing the line. Yeah, fighting
Yeah.
over what's here, this physical earth, instead of what's
So what's out there?
what's out there and what's inside our own minds.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
just
like-
as unknown. It's like the inner space,
Yeah.
and that is the fundamental problem. And in that sense, is we're just
Too focused on us.
we're too focused on us in this crazy society. We're all
Yeah.
hypnotized by
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like what's it
lots
gonna
of people.
take?
I mean, not everybody, of course. but-
Yeah.
I wonder if the emotion of hate is like an evolutionary flaw that's going to doom mankind to be
That's
like an
interesting.
intergalactical being, because like we built enough weapons to destroy the entire world
Yeah.
just because we hated another group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a possible outcome.
Yeah,
One might say a likely outcome. I hope not.
yeah. Well,
But-
fuck, with North Korea getting nuclear bombs and Iran, getting nuclear bombs, like we've controlled the nuclear bomb market for a pretty long time, but eventually it's going to be like the gun. It's going to be the weapon that changed the game, and everyone has it, or we have a one world society.
Yeah, it's our technology far like exceeds
Exceeds.
our like
Maturity.
yeah, our maturity, our
Morality.
morality.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's the scary part. We need to catch up on that in that regard, And we could accomplish miracles and great things and ascend to like godlike status in the universe. But we're too busy hating other people that are in other little portions of our little planet, Xenophobia and just hate.
Yeah, and like, even if it's not outright hate, there's just so much distraction in the modern life.
Yeah.
There's so much busyness, and it's just hard for a lot of people, I feel like, to even stop and ponder this kind of shit
Well,
on a regular basis.
like to that point, when the NSA thing broke, everyone had their TV on for CNN for like 5 minutes, and then they're like, oh fuck, TBS has got The Big Bang Theory on.
Yeah.
And they fucking clicked it over.
New Kardashians tonight.
Yeah. Reality TV is like the greatest ploy for the Illuminati to dumb down America.
Oh, I know. God, that is just terrible shit. Yeah.
It's interesting though, like what their agenda is, why they want everybody dumbed down.
That's interesting.
They want everyone dumbed down because think about the, 200 years the American colonies had slavery before the Civil War actually happened. I mean, African slaves were uneducated. They barely spoke language. They basically knew the words they needed to know for commands. They were like dogs.
Yeah.
Like, that's why they want to dumb us down. They want to dumb us down just enough that we can communicate, like, complex things.
Just to be worker bees, to be
like,
complacent.
I honestly feel
bees.
like that there was like this book of truth that went through the ages that like told them straight up, like, no, you're not the only intelligent being on the planet. Like, if you fly to Orion, you're gonna find a fucking republic of sentient beings that run on this higher level. They're universal.
Yeah.
And like, this is how you get to it. You have to turn your people into worker bees to build you the technology required to get to this feat.
Maybe, but it almost seems like it was almost opposite in a sense, because think about the past and like this sacred knowledge that seems to have been lost.
Well, it's not lost.
Well,
it's controlled.
I think a lot was
that's
lost,
my point.
though. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, like the great flood myths around the world, how all these civilizations
in Atlantis,
essentially disappeared. Well, what about them? They
And these monuments.
they've developed into the civilizations that history recognizes as among the first, Sumeria and Egypt and stuff. But just like Hancock said, did they really just pop into existence with all this supreme knowledge? And look at this shit they did
overnight, like, time-wise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's
like we went from just like
so
total Neanderthal.
Yeah, and we're I
like
mean,
pyramids.
Yeah. In
Fucking
like
ridiculous.
the snap of a finger.
And like,
granted,
in the course that you couldn't have like
with the time that it came with, people were naturally more. There was a hierarchy, and that's the way it had to be then, So they were dumber and dulled down in a sense, but at the same time, I think they weren't dealing with all the modern distractions that causes this neurosis that we see now, like of people just not even pondering the shit to begin with, not pondering, life on the deepest levels.
Dude, think about the great philosophers in the world.
Probably, maybe psychedelics had something to do with it.
Yeah, connection to nature, man, that we lost.
Yeah.
Something
I have
that
to bring up mushrooms.
Yeah.
And all these,
Dude, I was gonna ask you about this theory. I thought maybe you'd have some thoughts on that.
Oh, they totally ate mushrooms and then like sat in a field for 5 hours and tripped balls and were like, man, I imagined this hammock. I really want to build a fucking hammock. And then they built a hammock and they laid in it and they're like, whoa, I'm never sleeping on the ground again.
It's like a small microcosm of let's go to the moon.
Yeah.
Let's have a rock in our hand that lets us talk to other people on the other side of the planet with their little rocks in
And
their
they were
hands.
probably going beyond the moon, like, in a sense, in their minds, going out into, their inner space, into the universe, the great unknown. And think if all these, massive amounts of people were doing it, whole populations.
Oh, yeah.
It really would be
if
something.
they all just had, like, seriously, I would characterize a lot of the mushroom trips I've had, the more intense ones anyways, with like spiritual experiences.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah. Acid
Like,
is way
people
more
did that
scientific.
On a planet-wide, global scale right now. Can you imagine what would happen?
Everything
Mass
would change so
hysteria.
drastically.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be some of that mass hysteria,
You would
but
have-
I think things would change maybe for the better in a lot of ways too.
I think so too.
Yeah.
People actually got a little outside of themselves from a psychedelic trip and, whoa, what are we really doing here?
Any
What the fuck
elimination
does
of
this
the
all mean?
ego and all this
Exactly.
Boundary
bullshit.
dissolvers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that it's so true. I mean, McKenna just nailed it. I feel like we have to dissolve these boundaries, and they're building up all around us all the time.
Like you said, that we don't, at the point we're at today with our technology and our wars and all this shit, we don't have time to teach everybody to go through meditation and like have this transcendental journey, which it might be naturally. So psychedelic experience is like the next best thing or the best like medicine at this point. Like we don't have time to go through all that shit.
Mhm.
Like the best way to fix it is for everyone to have that like spiritual, psychedelic, like just overpowering, like what the fuck experience.
Mhm.
That's what's gonna fuck us like right in the nick of time to save ourselves.
Exactly. Something
Yeah, and
quick and effective.
that's an interesting point though. That like there are other methods to achieve it. You don't just have to ingest a drug or take something outside your body. Transcendental meditation, astral
Yeah.
projection, stuff like that. But it takes so much more time.
It takes so much discipline, you know.
Yeah, and discipline to accomplish like those psychedelic type experiences.
Yeah, that's something that's so free and out there for everybody to just experience.
Imagine how hard it
And
is
everything
to
like that has been
actually
marginalized
reach
for so
enlightenment.
long. And they both came, you know, it's interesting too, you know, both that whole frontier of, you know, just deeper, you know, philosophical thought about life and self-realization and psychology and all that, you know, came around. Psychedelics and meditation both got popularized in the West at the same time, and
Yeah.
it's just like it's a big wave, and it's been, you know, seeding ever since then.
Mhm.
Well, think about like
And now we
how
have
many
access to all sorts of substances and, you
Yeah.
know, product of our consumerism, right?
Yeah, well, imagine like how many people in history like probably actually reached enlightenment. You know, like Galileo probably reached enlightenment. Albert Einstein probably reached enlightenment. But like there's 6 million people on this earth and like most of them just don't have the brain capacity, I think, to really fully understand like what it means to be a part of this universe.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you do reach that point, like you probably ascend. Like, why did we come up with this concept of a soul? Like, I'm sure that my mind is more than the sum of my parts.
Yeah.
And like, if I reached the precipice to understand why it's more than the sum of my parts, like
Yeah.
maybe I can ascend into energy and like truly be a part of this universe. Like, there's this ever-ending flow of energy in this universe. Like, what is it?
Maybe
Well-
consciousness isn't created by the brain.
No, maybe consciousness is,
I
you
think
know,
it's
the
not
organic
received.
body absorbing energy,
The pineal
And it's
gland is the transmitter.
Electromagnetic energy flowing through every
living
human
thing.
being. And there's like these chi masters in China that like they did a study on. They measured how much electromagnetic energy people generate, and these chi masters produce like 4 to 10 times as much as regular people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I think the pineal gland and the whole DMT trip and all that, like, it's interesting. I think that it's a very real possibility that like a part of our brain, like the pineal gland, is like a transmitter. It's like
Yeah.
the radio antennas that allows consciousness to stream into our bodies and shit, you know?
Or it's just a supercharger and it just gets your fucking brain firing.
Yeah,
Like
it's
generates the reality.
The,
like if it's a simulation or whatever. That's like, yeah, it's trippy. It kind of seems like it is the vessel because it like creates dreams and is excreted in like small doses throughout the course of your life.
and it's in like
Maybe it
all
is
living things.
Fucking like
Yeah.
tie into how we perceive the world and